Manx Radio's Update with Beth Espey.
Well, Fastamai, good evening. Welcome to your daily news roundup. All you need to know about what's been happening on the Isle of Man in under 30 minutes. Tonight then, a government department reveals how much it's spent on staff bonuses over the past few years. There's another pay offer going to unions for Public Service Commission employees in the next few days. This will be the fifth offer. Is there any hope on the horizon? And we'll also have details later of some events to remember one of the greatest road races of all time. And as ever, we'll keep an eye on the weather and the traffic and travel too. And if you'd like to get in touch about anything at all, you can email studio@manxradio.com or text the studio. It's 166 177. Let's start as usual with a news headline roundup with Chanel Fastamai.
The Department for Enterprise has paid out more than £81,000 in staff bonuses over the past year, more than doubling the previous total. A Freedom of Information request revealed £220,000 has been awarded over 5 years, but the department won't disclose exact performance criteria. Work is underway on a fifth pay offer for employees of the Public Services Commission after union members rejected the previous deal. The chair of the PSC has confirmed to Manx Radio a revised offer will go out to the unions in the next day or two.
The Commission need to acknowledge and accept through the unions that employees deserve a fair pay, and we acknowledge that point.
And yellow weather warnings in place for frost and ice this evening into tomorrow. Forecasters at Ronaldsway Met Office say areas most at risk will be higher ground above 1,000 feet and sheltered low-lying spots in central and western parts of the island. In international news, a decision to demolish Grenfell Tower has been criticised by some bereaved relatives and survivors. One campaign group says they've been ignored, although another insists that there's been thorough engagement. A government minister says Britain would oppose any effort to move Palestinians out of Gaza against their will. It's after US President Donald Trump suggested that the US would consider taking ownership of the Strip. And Google's become the latest US company to axe diversity hiring targets. An email sent to staff states the tech giant will no longer have the aspirational goals that it previously set. Those are your headlines. News at 6.
Thank you very much indeed, Chanel. Let's take a look at the weather brought to you by Manx Glass and Glazing now. And we have got a yellow weather warning coming into force at 6 p.m. This is for frost and ice, mainly for higher ground above 1,000 feet, as well as some sheltered low-lying spots, mainly in central and western parts of the island, as I say, from 6 tonight until 11 a.m. tomorrow morning. The general forecast then, areas of cloud as well as isolated fog patches to start with. They've been largely dissipating over the past few hours, but it's really foggy, wasn't it, this morning? Otherwise, it's been pretty bright and sunny. Light to moderate southeast winds. Maximum temperatures have been around 8 Celsius. It is going to, though, as we know now, become cold overnight, a frost in places. Tomorrow, sunny spells to start, increasing cloud amounts in the afternoon and moderate to fresh easterly winds. Top temperatures tomorrow around 7 Celsius, but it will feel colder in the wind. Just looking ahead to Saturday, mainly dry, variable and at times large amounts of cloud. Sunset this evening was at 9 minutes past 5. Sunrise tomorrow morning, 7:55.
Manx Glass and Glazing can supply and install single, double and triple glazing. Call 674 573 or visit the showroom on the Snugborough Trading Estate.
Simply income protection from Kestrel Insurance. A choice of benefits. Simple underwriting and peace of mind with a regular income for up to 2 years if you're unable to work due to illness or injury. Kestrel Insurance is registered with the Isle of Man Financial Services Authority.
Carpetland, the carpet specialist with the island's best value carpets in stock, often fitted within a week. Furnitureland for 3-piece suites, dining and living room furniture, and a selection of amazing beds. Carpetland and Furnitureland, West Street, Ramsey.
Making life easier with Manx Mobility at the top of Summer Hill. Are you looking for a stair lift? Look no further with Which Magazine's #1 recommended stair lifts. Now provided by Manx Mobility. Access BDD stair lifts. Call us today on 200 680. The exclusive Karcher store is open with thousands of products, accessories and parts in stock. For Karcher sales and service, Hersham Electrical, Shipyard Industrial Estate, Ramsey.
You're listening to Update here on Manx Radio. It's exactly 5:05. Lovely to have your company this evening. We're just going through some of the main news of the day. And as we heard in the headlines, work is underway on a fifth pay offer for employees of the Public Services Commission. Now, the chair of the board has confirmed to us that a revised offer will be going out to unions in the next day or two. That's after a proposed 4% increase this year and 2% rise for next year was rejected. Sean Cowper has been talking to Rob Callister about how important it is to work with the unions to reach an agreement.
Oh, it's very important because they obviously represent, our workers, and we want to listen to their concerns. But I think on the opposite side of the debate, we also need to be mindful of the financial pressures within central government at the moment. So, for example, last year we offered, 4%, a 3% and a 2% offer to workers. Now, if within the budget, there's only a set amount being set aside to deal with the pay increases. Anything beyond that will have to be found through efficiencies and savings within the departments. So we've all got to be acknowledging the pressures that we're under at the moment. But as I say, it's got to be equalled out by making sure that we offer a fair wage to the employees of the Public Service Commission.
We did see elsewhere quite recently with Manx Care and the BMA, there was an escalation there. There would have been strike action. It was called off quite last minute. How keen are you to avoid something like that happening in this case?
Absolutely, I want to avoid it. But again, we've got to put everything into context. As I've said, the Public Service Commission employees need to acknowledge and accept the financial strain that we're under. We as a commission and the board, and it's not just me, I'm just the chair of the board also need to acknowledge and accept through the unions that employees deserve a fair pay. And we acknowledge that point, and we want to work with the unions, to address some of the long-term issues that have been raised by the unions, and we accept that. But hopefully this alternative offer, which we're just going through the numbers, today and tomorrow probably, and then we'll present it to the unions. I'm hoping that we can go out to ballot or ask the unions to go out to ballot as quickly as possible. And hopefully we can get this agreed before the end of this financial year.
That is Rob Callister talking to Sean there. Well, Trade Union Prospect is hopeful a deal is finally in sight as those pay talks continue. We know it's been a bumpy road, but Negotiations Officer Mick Hewer thinks recent pay offers given in the UK could have influenced that decision to reject this one.
We're at where we're at. We did put it out to ballot. Prospect put it out as a neutral ballot, so there was no guidance given this time to members, and it was subsequently rejected. On the back of that, I've asked for the Commission to consider putting 4% and 3% back onto the table alongside the harmonisation of the annual leave, which was offered previously. I believe that members would accept that. I've indicated that I would be prepared to advise members that that's the best that we can achieve through negotiation at this time.
And do you feel like there's been a change in the attitude in the way these negotiations are going since there's been a changeover of the chair? We had some positive discussions the first time that we met. The chair was happy to work with us in setting up a working group to look at the harmonisation of terms and conditions. So I think that the talks were positive in what was being offered moving forward. Certainly, given the inflation rate and given the financial pressures and given that Prospect have moved significantly when you look back to the original claim back in 2023 when inflation was fairly high. And I'm hopeful that the feedback that I've given will be taken in a positive light this time.
That is the Negotiations Officer for the Trade Union Prospect, Mick Hewer, talking to Christian there. Coming up to 5:10, and it's been revealed that more than 30% of people waiting for a dentist on the Isle of Man are children. This information has come from a Freedom of Information request by Manx Radio, as Amy Griffiths reports.
The number of people in total on the list for an NHS dentist has risen to 6,114 as of December last year. Of those, 1,904 are under 18, with 806 of them under 5 and 644 between 6 and 11. Around a third of 5 to 6-year-olds were represented in Public Health's recent Children's Oral Health Report, which showed 22% of those were on a waiting list for a dentist. Almost 20% were registered to a private one. Over a quarter of the 474 included in the survey either have tooth decay, fillings or missing teeth, which is higher than the England average. Public Health says every child should have the opportunity to grow up free of tooth decay, adding preventative advice and interventions are essential. The total number of people waiting for an NHS dentist here has more than doubled since April 2021, when there were 2,551 people on the list. The number of under 5s on the list has nearly tripled in that time. Meanwhile, the Health Minister has been responding to a written Tynwald question about the number of dentists on the island. Claire Christian says 50 are currently registered on the Isle of Man dental performers list. Almost half of those are over 50, while 4 are over the retirement age. Ms Christian says competitive salaries and relocation packages are being offered at the 2 dental practices run by Manx Care in the hope of bringing more dentists to the island. NHS dental providers contracted by Manx Care are private business owners and are said to therefore be responsible for their own recruitment and retention of dentists.
Amy Griffiths reporting there. And this afternoon we got some more news that the Ramsay dental practice Grovemount is handing back its NHS contract to Manx Care next month. Patients will still be able to access services there until the end of March. Manx Care says it's actively looking to secure dental provision for those affected, and it's working to minimise disruption. It also says it understands this news may cause uncertainty for patients, but it will keep them informed about ongoing arrangements. A spokesperson from Manx Care told us anyone who's concerned about this news can contact the Manx Care Advice and Liaison Service via email, that's mcals@gov.im, or by phone 642 642. Although the team will not be able to add anything further to the position outlined above, they will be able to capture any queries or concerns people have which may have arisen from this news. We have gone back to Manx Care to ask why that practice has handed back its contract, and if we get any details on that, we will let you know.
You're listening to the Isle of Man's quintessential daily news and current affairs roundup. Update on Manx Radio.
Now, it's been revealed bonus payments at the Department for Enterprise have more than doubled in the past year. But while we know how much has been awarded, the department's refusing to disclose exactly what performance targets were met to justify these payments. Well, to explain more, I'm joined by Christian Jones. Christian, first of all, just how much money are we talking about here?
Well, the figures come from a Freedom of Information request, which shows that in the financial year 2023 to 24, 7 staff members at the Department for Enterprise received bonuses totalling £81,676. That's a big increase from the previous year when only 3 staff members shared £46,200. And for the 3 years before that, bonuses were in the region of £30,000 to £33,000. So for the first time in 5 years, we're seeing both the number of recipients and the total paid jump quite significantly.
And do we know why these bonuses were paid?
Well, that's where things become less transparent. The department says the payments are linked to performance-related targets, but it won't provide specific details. Instead, it pointed to broad divisional and agency plans, which set out general goals for business, finance, tourism. But when asked for more detail on how individual staff were assessed, the department refused, saying that disclosing that information would allow people to identify individuals. So it's effectively using data protection laws to justify withholding that information.
So just to be clear, Christian, we assume it's public money. We're waiting for that to be confirmed. So we assume it is this public money being used for bonuses, but there's no clear breakdown of why certain staff members receive them.
No, that's right. The department has confirmed the total amount paid, but when it comes to specific targets met or individual performance criteria, they aren't making that public information. They argue that these staff are on individual contracts, which are different from standard public service roles. Those contracts don't include things like pension contributions and have fewer benefits, so the department says performance-based pay is part of the package, but at the same time they haven't explained why the number of bonuses awarded has suddenly increased or whether we'll even see higher payments in the future years.
And I suppose, given this rise in payments, the question might be if there's any concern about accountability.
Potentially. I mean, we know the total figures. We don't know exactly why certain staff were rewarded or whether the criteria for these payments have changed. I suppose the biggest question to arise out of this is why potentially is public money being used to fund bonus payments? And I should just lastly add that we have contacted the Department for Enterprise for comments. We're yet to hear back though.
Christian, thank you.
Manx Radio Travel, driven by Quayside Tyres and Service Centre.
So nothing to report on the police pages, which is always good news. If you spot anything when you're on your way home, you can let us know. That'd be great. 166 177, or you can email studio@manxradio.com. Or locate down at the airport. And the latest from the steam packet, the Ben McCree left Heysham at around 2:15, expected in to Douglas at around 6 and heading out again at 7:15.
Ask how you can spread the cost interest-free at Quayside.
We always welcome your comments here on Update, and Gary in Port St Mary has just messaged to say, how does the DFE get bonuses? There's no provision to give public servants bonuses. Each post has a pay scale, and that is that. As I say, Gary, we are waiting to get clarification on exactly how those bonuses have been funded. Now, there will be a new boat in the bay this year as Douglas RNLI station is set to receive a replacement lifeboat. Its current vessel is nearing the end of its life, while the boathouse itself is out of use, as Lewis Foster reports.
A Trent-class all-weather lifeboat will replace the current Mersey-class, which is set to be withdrawn from service later this year. It follows a life-saving effect review, which got underway in October last year, to assess which lifeboat would best serve the island's capital. Currently, the boat is launched from a liner berth in Douglas Harbour due to a safety issue with the winch inside the existing boathouse. The RNLI says replacing the lifeboats will be possible once the formal licence for the liner berth has been issued by the Department of Infrastructure. And it says discussions with the Isle of Man government continue about the long-term future of Douglas Station. In 2024, of course, the RNLI celebrated its 200th anniversary. The organisation was founded by Manx resident Sir William Hillary, who, after witnessing numerous shipwrecks around the island's coast, sought to find a life-saving solution. The Tower of Refuge in Douglas Bay was built at the behest of Sir William to afford shelter to mariners wrecked on Conister Rock. A statue of Sir William on Douglas Head looks out towards the tower in the bay. Well, Joe Partner, RNLI Head of Region, says the organisation recognises the historic significance of Douglas alongside the current life-saving impact the lifeboat station has in this region. She says she wants to reinforce the commitment to find a solution that is absolutely right, and describes the replacement vessel as an interim solution, which provides a continuance of all-weather capability from Douglas, a reduced training demand on volunteers, and allows more time to find a longer-term solution that will ensure RNLI life-saving from Douglas will be continued. Manx Radio has contacted the RNLI for more details regarding the new vessel's arrival.
Lewis Foster reporting. 18 minutes past 5. Some good news now. A ball drying company which produces whisky using materials sourced here from the Isle of Man has won a gold medal at the World Whiskies Awards. I bet you didn't even know they existed. The Manx Whisky Company took the top spot in the small batch single malt under 12 years category at its first attempt. Co-founder and distiller Magnus Grinneback says he's thrilled with this award and a little bit surprised.
The thing I found daunting really was my age and being accepted or being recognised as responsible enough at my age, because obviously you're going to people a lot older than you.
Hang on a second, that wasn't him. We'll come back to the Whisky Award in just a moment, but what a fantastic achievement there. It really is a prestigious award. You can find out more about it at manxradio.com. That, though, was Daryl Hill talking about becoming a clerk of the course and marshalling in Island motorsport. He says it's really rewarding and more accessible than some might think. He is the ARA clerk of the course and has been describing his journey so far, which includes overseeing race meetings from, as he just said, a very young age. Let's just hear that bit again.
The thing I found daunting really was my age and being accepted or being recognised as responsible enough at my age, because obviously you're going to people a lot older than you who have more years involved, and standing and looking at them effectively saying, I'm in charge of you.
Some of those decisions, presumably, Daryl, aren't going to be that popular?
No, they're not. And also, when you're saying that to them, there are people who look at you and think you're not up to this, or, I'm not going to take that from you, or trust that you're going to be able to make this call.
For anybody who thinks, actually, this is something that I'm interested in, I'd like to find out more, I'm guessing, Daryl, you can't just rock up and just be good at it on the day. There's a lot of background preparation.
Yeah, quite a lot. I mean, it took me probably two to 3 years to actually be able to clerk a meeting myself. So you go up as an assistant first of all, and you have to shadow the clerks. They'll suss out how good you are and what you're capable of doing and whether the role is suited to you or not. And then you have to do so many meetings as an assistant then before actually attending a seminar run by the ACU. Once you pass that, you have to know what they call the ACU handbook a bit, which is your Bible, if you like. That's what we have the handbook with us, and that is our gospel, what we go on.
If there is anybody listening who thinks either marshalling or potentially looking at clerking in the future, and they're thinking, actually, I am interested in that, particularly if they are a little bit younger, what would be the best piece of advice you would give them? Where should they start?
Definitely for me at Andrews Racing, definitely at the short circuit as a marshal or even as a clerk. You don't have to have, yes, it helps. You don't necessarily have to have much racing experience or background knowledge to be a clerk of the course. It can be taught. It's if you're cool-headed and can make decisions under pressure, then that will send you a long way into that role.
That is Daryl Hill. You can hear the full interview with Daryl on Manx Radio's Journey to a Dream podcast. It's available via the Manx Radio website and app. Now, I mentioned whisky. Here is now the co-founder and distiller of the Manx Whisky Company, Magnus Grinneback, who does say he's absolutely thrilled with his award that he's just won.
Obviously, we submitted a whisky that we quite like ourselves. But, it's a young whisky. I mean, it's only 3-year-old. And in this category, you have whiskies that are up to 12 years old. And we're still performing so well. So, yeah, I'm a little bit surprised. Very pleased, of course.
And you were up against some pretty major players, I would imagine.
Yeah, there will be some really big names in this category. And you don't really know what you're up against. And, the whole competition is done, so judges taste everything blindly, so judges don't know what it is either, to be honest. So yeah, of course, it could be anyone in this category. So.
And of course, your product is truly Manx, isn't it? It's made from locally sourced raw materials and produced here on island.
That's right, yeah. We get barley straight from the farmer, and then we process and, we malt it ourselves and turn it into whiskey. So barley comes in and whiskey comes out, and that's it. It's the whole process.
What do you think makes it stand out as such a strong contender?
Mostly, I think we do things in a very old-fashioned way. It's very unusual to have, do the in-house malting, for example. The way we ferment things is done quite differently to what a big distillery would do, where we can prioritize flavor development instead of efficiency, and then we just distill things slowly and let it take its time. So it's a very deliberately slow process that is not so much focused on efficiency, and I think you can see that in the product.
Now then, winning the gold medal means that Single Cask #4 is now in contention for the coveted world's best small batch single malt under 12 years. Now that's going to be announced in March, with finalists coming from across the globe, countries like Japan, Taiwan, England and Canada and Ireland, to name just a few. I mean, that is really up with the big boys there, isn't it? And that would be a real feather in your cap if you could pick an award there.
Yeah, one can always dream, right?
Oh, that is the co-founder and distiller of the Manx Whisky Company, Magnus Grinneback, talking to Simon there. What a great achievement, winning that gold medal at the World Whisky Awards. Now, speaking of awards and people who are incredibly memorable, a series of events are going to take place at this year's Classic TT, celebrating the life and career of the TT legend Joey Dunlop. Event organisers have announced a series of organisation events to run during this year's meeting between the 20th and the 29th of August, as Rob reports.
It comes as this year will mark 25 years since Dunlop's historic hat-trick of wins on the Snaefell Mountain course in 2000, which took him up to what would be his 26th and final TT victory. From the 20th to the 29th of August, there will be a pop-up exhibition offering insight into his life and career, which will include original memorabilia from the Dunlop family collection, such as Joey's leathers, helmets and trophies. A temporary cinema will also be set up at the races, featuring some of the definitive moments of Joey's career, including his now famous Formula 1 TT win in 2000, along with documentaries charting his life and career. One of the major moments is due to take place on Friday the 29th of August, with a special demonstration lap around the mountain course, paying homage to Joey's victories at his final TT in 2000. As part of that, Joey's nephew, Michael Dunlop, now the most successful TT rider of all time, will ride a replica of Joey's 2000 factory Honda VTR SP1. A special live podcast episode will also take place on the stage of the TT Grandstand, reliving that Formula 1 TT race. Among the expected guest speakers will be John McGuinness and Michael Rutter, along with team members, commentators and the Dunlop family. The Classic TT as a whole is returning this year for the first time since 2019. It'll run alongside the Manx Grand Prix in an expanded 12-day schedule, which will run between the 17th of August and the 29th of August.
So some wonderful things to look forward to there. And Rob is with me now with the rest of the sports news. But first, Rob, that sounds like it's going to be quite an emotional event, doesn't it?
It does indeed. And the fact that they've the scale of it, by the sounds of it as well, that it's not just going to be something out on the course, which would of course be very fitting in itself as well, but to do something immersive as well around the grandstand as well during that time, just to give people a little bit of an insight, and especially maybe for the younger generation of fans coming through who will no doubt have heard about not just Joey but the Dunlop family's exploits, but just to see a little bit more and gaze through the window a little bit at what a remarkable career Joey Dunlop had.
It certainly was. Lots of other sports news happening?
Yes, indeed. We're going to stick with motorsport, but on four wheels this one, because organisers of the 2025 Manx Rally are already feeling positive about demands to take part in this year's event. As of Monday this week, officials say they'd already received 143 applications to take part in the meeting, which is scheduled for Friday the 11th of April and Saturday the 12th of April. The entry capacity is actually for 140 cars, so it's a tiny bit over at the moment, but Manx Autosport is expecting some entries will be withdrawn between now and the event itself. The organisation is describing the current level of interest as an overwhelming response and believe that this, in their view, is another indication of the popularity of this classic closed rally and rallying on the Isle of Man. Well, this year's rally will involve 18 classic special stages and form rounds of the Pro Tyre Asphalt Rally Championship, ANWCC Stage Rally Championship and the Manx Rally Championship. Elsewhere, the Isle of Man has been represented during the latest English National Badminton Championships. Manx player Jess Lee was involved in the women's doubles competition at the meeting in Nottingham. She and doubles partner Katie Ellis were eliminated in the round of 16 after a three-set defeat, 21-18, 20-22, 14-21. In football, Ramsey have now officially been crowned champions of the Isle of Man Under-18s League. The northern side were presented with the silverware last night, having finished the season undefeated with 5 wins and 1 draw, 3 points clear of their nearest challengers, Corinthians. And finally, the Isle of Man Darts organisation is praising its players for battling through adversities to take part in this year's Islands International. A 20-strong Manx squad contested the 3rd edition of the tournament, which this year was hosted by Jersey in late January. However, only around half the island team made it to Jersey in person due to travel disruption caused by Storm Eowyn, with those stuck on the Isle of Man having to play matches remotely using live feeds and scoring systems. Well, despite the setbacks, the Isle of Man women's team went on to finish 2nd and the men's side finished 3rd. IOMDO is also thanking host Jersey Darts for being so accommodating for players around the travel issues, as well as volunteers who set up the temporary venue.
Thank you very much indeed, Rob. That is all from Update this evening. We'll be back at the same time tomorrow. Still plenty to come on Manx Radio tonight, though. I'm delighted the archive room is back. It's next at 5:30, one of my favourite programmes. Judith Lay delves into our audio past and brings us some highlights. Chris Kinney's here from 6 with Greatest Hits. At 9, it's a little light music with Morris Powell before Rhiannon Evans joins you with After Hours from 10. Tomorrow, maybe I'll get her name right. Have a great evening, whatever you're doing.